You can never be overdressed or overeducated. The nicest feeling in the world is to do a good deed anonymously and have somebody find out. Selfishness is not living as one wishes to live, it is asking others to live as one wishes to live. I always pass on good advice. It is the only thing to do with it. It is never of any use to oneself. Anyone who lives within their means suffers from a lack of imagination. Only dull people are brilliant at breakfast. I may not agree with you, but I will defend to the death your right to make an ass of yourself. Behind every exquisite thing that existed, there was something tragic. The only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. Some things are more precious because they don't last long. The books that the world calls immoral are books that show the world its own shame. Crying is for plain women. Pretty women go shopping. There are moments when one has to choose between living one's own life, fully, entirely, completely, or dragging out some false, shallow, degrading existence that the world and its hypocrisy demands. Anybody can sympathize with the sufferings of a friend, but it requires a very fine nature to sympathize with a friend's success. A bore is someone who deprives you of solitude without providing you with company. The world is a stage and the play is badly cast. Fashion is a form of ugliness so intolerable that we have to alter it every 6 months. An idea that is not dangerous is unworthy of being called an idea at all. Everything in the world is about sex except sex. Sex is about power. A cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. I have the simplest tastes. I am always satisfied with the best. The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means. Never marry at all, Dorian. Men marry because they are tired, women because they are curious, both are disappointed. Always forgive your enemies, nothing annoys them so much. Art is the only serious thing in the world. And the artist is the only person who is never serious. Quotation is a serviceable substitute for wit. How can a woman be expected to be happy with a man who insists on treating her as if she were a perfectly normal human being? There is only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. Women have a much better time than men in this world. There are far more things forbidden to them. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Laughter is not at all a bad beginning for a friendship, and it is by far the best ending for one. There are only 2 kinds of people who are really fascinating: people who know absolutely everything, and people who know absolutely nothing. I am not young enough to know everything. To lose one parent may be regarded as a misfortune, to lose both looks like carelessness. The heart was made to be broken. The public have an insatiable curiosity to know everything, except what is worth knowing. Experience is merely the name men gave to their mistakes. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. There is no sin except stupidity. It is what you read when you don't have to that determines what you will be when you can't help it. When one is in love, one always begins by deceiving oneself, and one always ends by deceiving others. That is what the world calls a romance. A thing is not necessarily true because a man dies for it. Yes, I am a dreamer. For a dreamer is one who can only find his way by moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world. Be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Every woman is a rebel. Women are meant to be loved, not to be understood. Never love anyone who treats you like you're ordinary. I choose my friends for their good looks, my acquaintances for their good characters, and my enemies for their good intellects. All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does, and that is his. Life is far too important a thing ever to talk seriously about. The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last. Morality is simply the attitude we adopt towards people we personally dislike. To define is to limit. Life is too short to learn German. Yet each man kills the thing he loves by each let this be heard. Some do it with a bitter look, some with a flattering word. The coward does it with a kiss, the brave man with a sword. I have nothing to declare except my genius. It is absurd to divide people into good and bad. People are either charming or tedious. I like men who have a future and women who have a past. Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask, and he will tell you the truth. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. We are each our own devil, and we make this world our hell. If you are not long, I will wait for you all my life. Some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go. Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions, their lives a mimicry, their passions a quotation. Everything in moderation, including moderation. A man's face is his autobiography. A woman's face is her work of fiction. Paradoxically though it may seem, it is none the less true that life imitates art far more than art imitates life. I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them, and to dominate them. America is the only country that went from barbarism to decadence without civilization in between. Whenever people agree with me, I always feel I must be wrong. Society often forgives the criminal, it never forgives the dreamer. You will always be fond of me. I represent to you all the sins you never had the courage to commit. Humanity takes itself too seriously. It is the world's original sin. If the caveman had known how to laugh, history would have been different. With freedom, books, flowers, and the moon, who could not be happy? Children begin by loving their parents. As they grow older they judge them, sometimes they forgive them. I can resist anything except temptation. Nothing can cure the soul but the senses, just as nothing can cure the senses but the soul. If one cannot enjoy reading a book over and over again, there is no use in reading it at all. Nowadays most people die of a sort of creeping common sense, and discover when it is too late that the only things one never regrets are one's mistakes. Indeed, I have always been of the opinion that hard work is simply the refuge of people who have nothing to do. I think God, in creating man, somewhat overestimated his ability. One should never trust a woman who tells one her real age. A woman who would tell one that would tell one anything. I am so clever that sometimes I don't understand a single word of what I am saying. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. After a good dinner one can forgive anybody, even one's own relations. To get back my youth I would do anything in the world, except take exercise, get up early, or be respectable. The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Live the wonderful life that is in you. Let nothing be lost upon you. Be always searching for new sensations. Be afraid of nothing. I am too fond of reading books to care to write them. Nowadays people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. Who, being loved, is poor? A good friend will always stab you in the front. I don't want to go to heaven. None of my friends are there. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Men always want to be a woman's first love. That is their clumsy vanity. We women have a more subtle instinct about these things. What women like is to be a man's last romance. You don't love someone for their looks, or their clothes, or for their fancy car, but because they sing a song only you can hear. Education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. We live in an age when unnecessary things are our only necessities. Every portrait that is painted with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not of the sitter.